All right, so the setup for this one, I call it Space, the Final Frontier, because you guessed it, I'm a geek. So the way I run my space unit for Science 10 is that I basically do a brain dump with a 200 slide presentation of things from space. Everything that the ministry kind of lays out, as well as some other things that I've brought in. And what I do is I start the first 30 minutes of 3 days in a row of classes just talking about space, showing my excitement for the subject, and just kind of like putting as much love into that as I can. While that's happening, anytime the student gets a question, they're supposed to write it down on a piece of paper. They can ask it after they've written it down, but they have to actually write it down. Because what we're doing is we're generating a primer for this next experience. And this isn't one of those long-term experiences because it goes from the start of the school year or semester all the way to the end. So what we do for this is that I have the kids generating as many questions as they can. And then what they have to do is refine those questions. So they look at all of the different subjects that we talk about and anything that they know about space, because that's what I have them write down as I go through my first PowerPoint. When you hear the word space, what do you think of? And then from there, I say pick the most exciting subject that you can out of all of those questions that you had. From there, the next step is to generate as many questions as you can about that subject. After that's done, you make sure that they're all open-ended questions, so none of them are yes, no. Are there aliens in the universe? Yes or no. That doesn't work. How can we find aliens? Way better question. And then after those pieces are done, I have them narrow down their top 3 questions. That becomes something that they submit to me as their long-term project for study. The nice thing about this is that it lets them have as long as they need to actually look into their subject matter. And if they're truly interested in it because they've generated their own questions, they've decided which questions are most important to them, then they have this ownership of, this is my project. This is what I want to research, and I want to know more about this thing. So with that being said, we have them going into their project and they end up researching. And I do give a few days that are planned, especially more as we get towards the end of the semester or the school year, if you're in a linear system. But it also allows for a very easy TOC day if during the school year I've got a day where I am sick or whatever, that I can be like, okay, today you're working on your space projects. Go and research. Now, the thing with this project is that you actually go and you start reading. You're taking notes to answer your question. But anytime that you read something about black holes, you will see something new. It will make you ask a question, and then you create this subsection, and you're doing as much research as possible. So this is the setup for the project. The end of the project, what I assign them with the last month to go, is that they actually then are given a 6-slide, 10-slide max presentation with as few words on the slide and only using the presenter notes on the bottom of a Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation as their notes. So they have to learn how to use the technology that we have in the right way to do a picture-only explanation. So if you're talking about black holes, you're going to find a picture that actually means something, that when you look at that picture, you know exactly why you're talking about it and why it's up there. You can just describe the picture and why you chose it, and that would be good enough for their presentation. Students have a hard time with this because they're so used to reading every word that they put on the screen. But as we know as teachers, that doesn't make for a very good presentation. So I call that Space, the Final Frontier. Part 1 is going to be the question generation. Part 2 is the question refinement. And then they go into it, and then I have one final place in my Google Classroom where I have the students submit their final 6 to 10 slide document that they're going to present at the end of the year. That's a really good way to wrap up my school year, where basically all the real work is done. They have one more chance to kind of show me how good they got at finding information and communicating that information with what is important to them. All right, this one's fun for you. It's fun for me, and I hope you have a good time with it. Okay, bye.